Hey MCE crew, I hope your day is progressing profitably. Let's start the discussion by talking about one of the many advantages that you will have available to you as a business owner. Today we're going to talk about setting up a solo 401k. And as the name would imply, this is a 401k for people who own their own businesses. Now, there are some qualifications, some caveats. We're going to get into this, but suffice it to say, the solo 401k is going to be like a 401k on steroids. You know how if you work for a company, you can have a 401k through that company. They cover their employees with that 401k, make it available to them. Well, a solo 401k is there for you as a business owner to be able to really supercharge your qualified money. Okay, now there are a lot of benefits to this. There are a lot of pros. There are some cons. We're going to go over them, but I want you to concentrate and key in on the fact that the solo 401k is, again, one of many benefits that you have as a business owner. You're going to see how this thing is going to help you build wealth. All right, this is something that folks in the corporate world cannot do with their 401k. You're going to see what I'm talking about in just a second. So we're going to start digging into this type of stuff, exploring exactly how and why you should open a business and what benefits are available to you to help you build wealth. Now, let me say this before we get started with the meat and potatoes of it. You've got to have a real business. You'll see that the solo 401k, one of the caveats is that you have real income coming in from this business. So don't try to, outfox the IRS. They've thought of everything. And the way they've set this up is so advantageous to you that, especially when you combine it with other options, you're really, really going to win here. Okay, so this is one of many keys to success that we're going to see, that you're going to be able to deal with, employ, use as tactics to gain real wealth. So without further ado, let's get started going over the solo 401k and how that's going to help you build your business and capture financial independence. Okay, so let's get into this. Let's show you exactly what the solo 401k or the individual 401k, solo K, it goes by all those names. We're going to call it the solo 401k here for our purposes. That's the name I'm familiar with, and that's a name I'm comfortable with, so let's go with that. Now, this is going to, as you will see, allow you to just put away massive amounts of money for, the purposes of your retirement when you exit your business. There are going to be some allowances for you to be able to do other things with this money over and above what folk are able to do with money they might take a loan from in a 401k. Okay, so there are a lot of advantages here. Now, for the purposes of the IRS, they're saying that this plan is has very little differences from a regular 401k. It's just structured such that it is more key toward a business owner. Naturally, it's a solo 401k. Now, in these solo 401ks, you're not going to be able to have any employees in your business. Okay, this is meant for you. You will be able to have your spouse covered under the plan. The IRS does allow that. But before we go any further, I want to remind you, as I always do, you need to do your due diligence. We are talking about these subjects in broad strokes. So what you need to do is you need to meet with your CPA or your tax preparer. And the other thing about a solo 401k is not very, it's not simple to set up. You've got to have an actual firm set this up for you. It is not something that you would just call up your bank or your brokerage firm and say, hey, I want to open up a solo 401k, and boom, 15 minutes later, it's done. It's available on your online account. Doesn't work that simply. You are basically setting up a 401k. Just like Microsoft has a 401k for their employees, just like Amazon has a 401k for their employees, you're setting up a 401k for your business, the only employee of which is you. So there's some complexity here. So you need to talk with your experts in order to do your full due diligence. Now, let's get right into the heart of the matter and start talking to you about the power in this thing. And the power part of it is in the contributions. Now, the contributions are bifurcated. And what that means is there are two types of contributions that can be made to these plans. Number one is the elective deferral contribution. That is the contribution that you would make as an employee. Then there is the contribution that you would make as the employer, and that is called the employer non-elective contribution. Now, with the elective deferral or the employee contribution, that's going to allow you to contribute up to 100%. You can contribute 100% of the compensation from the business. So if you are if 100% of your compensation equals $19,500, because that is the contribution limit for 401ks in 2021, if 100% of your compensation is equivalent to that, then you can put the whole thing in there, $19,500. Now, here's where you might say, well, look, $19,500, that's the same amount that anybody can contribute to a 401k. And that is true. But we go further with the ability for your company to also make contributions. And the contribution that's coming from your company, that can be up to 25% of your compensation. So let's say that you are being compensated $100,000 from your company. All right, so first you got the elective deferral contribution that you made at $19,500. And then your company can come right behind you and make the employer non-elective contribution of up to 25% of your compensation. Now, we said it was $100,000. So 25% of $100,000 would be $25,000. $25,000 plus $19,500 equals $44,500. That is the amount that you'd be able to contribute in such a scenario, okay? So that's huge. That is far and away better in terms of the amount of contribution that you can make. It's far and away better than what people who are working for a company and are covered under their 401k, they can only do $19,500. You, in the scenario that we just gave, where you're making $100,000, you have up to $44,500 worth of potential that you can contribute to your solo 401k. Huge. Now, you do have some additional flexibility in that. We gave the example of you making $100,000 from the business and what you're doing, but you can contribute a maximum in 2021 of $58,000. Okay, so that's the maximum you could get in there with both types of contributions in 2021. Okay, now let's talk about some of the tax advantages inherent in these solo 401ks. Now, you know that if you're contributing to a 401k before taxes, okay, and you're allowing the IRS to give you that advantage where they take your contribution and lower your taxable income that year by that contribution. If you're doing that, then you're setting this up as a tax deferred plan, okay, which means you get a break on the taxes in the here and now. You're going to get a break on the taxes from the standpoint of your contribution as an employee and your contribution as an employer. All right. So you're getting these tax advantages in the here and now. It's going to lower your taxable income in the here and now. But you have to also understand that this is setting it up to be a tax deferred account. So you're going to pay taxes on the money later. Okay, when you start the withdrawal process. And hopefully that withdrawal process will not be prior to, right now, age 59 and a half. Because if it is, you're going to pay taxes and you're going to pay penalties. There are ways to get money out of the solo 401k prior to that. And we'll talk about that in a minute. There are ways to do it where you can avoid the penalties and the taxes. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So the other advantage to the solo 401k is that you can actually contribute to this on a Roth basis, which means that you can put in money after after taxes. And if you do that, if you contribute money that has already been taxed, then what you're going to do is you're going to get a tax break later on down the road when you start to take that money out. Okay, so you can exercise both options here: the tax deferred option, okay, like with traditional 401k setup, or the tax the after tax money contribution that will give you the tax break later, when taxes are probably going to be high, because we're spending all this money as a nation. Now, I promised you that we'd talk about how to get some money out of this. You're a business owner, so there may be times when you need to invest in your business. And the solo 401k can be a place where you can get that money, okay? However, there are rules to the game. And some of those rules we're going to talk about now. Again, if you want to know the entire impact of you borrowing from a solo 401k, don't talk to me. I don't know you or your situation. You need to talk to your expert, CPA, your advisor, whoever administers your solo 401k. Now, your loans, because you can take a loan, but it's limited to 50% of the balance or $50,000. So let's say you need a loan for $100,000 and you've got $500,000 in this solo 401k. Well, you can only take 50% of the balance or $50,000, whichever is less. So it wouldn't matter how much you had in it. The IRS is saying you can only take up to 50 grand out of this. And they're saying that because they're saying, look, we're giving you a break on the taxes dealing with this. And so, we know that you may need to take money out as a business owner to do other things with it, but we're going to cap that. Now, there are other vehicles where you don't have a limit on the amount of money you take out. As long as you've got it in there, you can take it. You can borrow it from yourself. That's the properly structured cash value life insurance policy, which we'll talk about in depth in another video. Now, you can take out multiple loans, but the total outstanding balance for those loans cannot be greater than $50,000. And this is a loan, okay? So not greater than $50,000 in a 12-month period. And the interest, and you in most cases will pay interest on the loan, and that interest is not tax deductible. All right, the funds you borrow are no longer invested, so that's going to have an impact on the return that you're generating. That's going to have an impact on your compound interest because you've taken those funds out of play and decided to do something else with them. Now, here's a very important aspect of this. You got 5 years to pay that loan back. If you do not, then that loan will become subject to a penalty and taxation at whatever rate you're at. So that's going to become a very expensive loan if you're not able to pay it back in 5 years. Keep that in mind. Okay, so just recapping here, some of the advantage of this thing, it's got very high contribution limits. You can borrow up to a certain extent, and you can also make Roth contributions that can soften the blow of taxation later on down the road. Now, one of the main caveats, or one of the main cons rather, is that this is complex. You don't want to set this up on your own. Okay, it's going to take you at least 2 years to get the proper filing through the process with the IRS. You don't want to do that. You're not in the business of that. You want to go to a professional and have them set this up for you. It's going to save you, even though it costs money, it's going to save you in the long run, lots of money. So that's one of the cons, is the complexity of it. I guess you could also say a con would also be that strict $50,000 limit on loans in any 12-month period, because that is not the same for other vehicles like that life insurance policy I was telling you about. If you've got $500,000 in a life insurance policy, properly structured cash value life insurance policy, then you got a lot more flexibility than 50 grand in terms of being able to take it and do stuff with it. And you are not required to pay that back. But again, we'll delve into that later. All right, so I hope you got something out of this. Take a look, see if it's right for your business. This is one of the many advantages of owning your own business. I will talk to you soon.